Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, this is BestInSlot, and tonight, as promised, I'm going to give you guys a guide on how to beat Jurassic Difficulty Challenge Mode in Jurassic World Evolution, with patch 1.6 coming out tomorrow and introducing 7 new challenge maps, all of them hiding new skins, including 7 Jurassic Difficulty exclusive skins. I know some of you have been a little bit put off because you think you might have some difficulty actually beating the mode. Hopefully, by the end of this video you'll feel a little bit more ready to tackle Jurassic Difficulty and get some of these skins for yourself. For what it's worth, I believe anyone can 5-star a Jurassic Difficulty Park. It's simply a matter of knowing the tips and tricks that make the game work. As a quick aside before we get going, this is not an exhaustive list, and if you want to read all about beating Jurassic Difficulty in incredible detail, then David Schroeder, i.e. Blue Guitar 322 on Reddit, and i.e. Dine on Nikes, on YouTube, has put together both a brilliant website, it's really cool, with tons of information, and they've got an accompanying video series showcasing their own sub 5 hour 5-star Jurassic Difficulty Park, and I've integrated some of those tips into this video as well, combining them with stuff I've learned myself. His site is linked below, go check it out. My own record is currently 6.5 hours, that was actually my first go. It's definitely not record breaking, but it's way above par, so hopefully, not a brag, so hopefully you'll have a little bit of confidence that what I'm telling you does actually work. Anyway, let's get started. The first tip I have is appropriately all about how you begin your park, and that is quite simply get going ASAP. Your first 3 buildings should be a small power station, an expedition center, and a fossil center. You do not need to be building research centers, you don't need to be building ranger stations, you definitely don't need to be building ACUs, not for quite a while. The priority right now is to get your initial buildings and start hunting down Struthiomimus fossils. Hatch them at 50%, get them into your park. Later on in the game and you're generating some income, you can focus on 100%ing every dinosaur. That's recommended because it boosts their score and it's really important to do. But just at the start with the Struthy, get it out at 50, get the park rolling, get your income coming in. At this point in the game, you really have no money, so it's all about efficiency and minimizing unnecessary spend. This point early on is also a great time to get some contracts done. They're likely to be your main source of income until you hit 1 star, we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Sometimes you'll get a contract that tells you to hunt down a carnivore fossil and the like, and it's certainly worth sending out a dig team to pick up some Ceratosaurus fossils for some easy money. Other times you'll need to make certain buildings or apply minor building upgrades, and if you have them to hand, these are worthwhile as well. What's not worthwhile, however, is worrying about contracts that want you to say, get a dinosaur loads of combat infamy or a certain number of victories or with really extravagant genetic modifications. Do not be afraid, this is a mistake I used to make, don't be afraid to cancel contracts just because it costs money to do so. You want to keep those contracts going and regurgitating. You want to be getting new easy contracts that are going to generate you money. Now do it logically. If you've got 10k in the bank and a contract pops up and you can't do it, but if you fail it, if you reject it, it'll cost you 100k. Obviously you want to wait a little bit, wait until you're a bit more sound money-wise. Just as a little aside, I did not have a single sabotage in my entire Jurassic Difficulty playthrough. It is definitely doable, just make sure you're balancing your contracts across all of the divisions, and you might need to get a little bit lucky. Now it's going to take a little bit of time to hit that 1-star mark, maybe an hour, maybe a little bit more. It needs a lot of dinosaurs to break through that huge variety penalty, but to help you along the way you should be focusing on permanently maintaining a 5-star facility rating. This is easily done initially with just a handful of buildings. It does become a little bit tougher later on. It's important to remember the golden rule for buildings that I've been pushing since the game basically came out. Restaurant, clothes shop, arcade. These are the only 3 shops you need to max your facility score. You can chuck in a bar if absolutely necessary because you will be missing 1 star in drinks, but don't waste your time with like fossil zones and toy shops, because at the end of the day not only do you need to put these buildings down and spend money on them unnecessarily, but you need to research them, blah blah blah. Don't worry about it. Restaurant, clothes shop, arcade, as soon as you unlock those 3, only use those 3. Those 3 along with hotels are all you will need for a 5-star rating, and you should be maintaining a 5-star facility rating throughout your entire playthrough. Speaking of lots of dinosaurs, this is one area I feel people are making a really big mistake with Jurassic Difficulty. Carnivores are bad. I'll say it one more time. Carnivores are bad. There are exceptions. The small carnivores, such as Dilophosaurus in particular, can be a fantastic moneymaker towards the mid-game when you've got your upgraded heavy electric fences. But your primary focus in Jurassic difficulty should always be on herbivores. You do not want a T-Rex, an Indominus Rex, an Indoraptor, a Spinosaurus, or any of those big, scary, large carnivores. Not only are they much more likely to break out if there's a storm, unless you research the electrified concrete fence, which isn't available till late in the game and a waste of both time and money, but they take up a lot of room and can't really live with lots of other dinosaurs. Yes, you could put your Spinosaurus with your Dilophosaurus pack if you wanted, or you could put loads of sauropods in there instead for a much higher bonus and less risk. You need around 25 unique species to max out your dinosaur rating, along with a 10k dinosaur score, that's their rating. In my 5-star park, I had 2 carnivores, Dilophosaurus and Ceratosaurus. Every single other dinosaur was a herbivore. Now at some point it likely becomes prudent to only make a handful of each new dinosaur you unlock to boost your variety, and then focus on mass producing effective dinosaurs in order to boost your overall dinosaur score to hit that 10,000 score needed. In the early game, the most cost-efficient dinosaur you can produce, in fact in the entire game, is Struthia mimus. Now you don't want to keep going too nuts with these. Disease is rampant in Jurassic difficulty, it really is, and the more dinosaurs you have penned together, the more difficult these are going to be able to control. But in the early game you should absolutely be making 10 to 12 Struthies and grouping them with some other early game herbivores. Edmontosaurus is a pretty classic choice. Later on, Dilophosaurus and Diplodocus, as recommended by David on his fantastic website, are a game-winning combination. 12 Dilophosauruses will live happily with a huge number of Diplodocus. In not that much space, they're very unpicky for a sauropod, despite being worth a lot. And by the end of the game, I was making one of every new dinosaur I unlocked, if the social allowed it, and then just mass producing Dilophosauruses and Diplodocus. You've got all these fancy dinosaurs, right? But surely you should be upgrading them genetically. As it happens, no. There is only one genetic modification in the game that is profitable. That is, it increases the dinosaur rating by a higher percentage than it increases the dinosaur cost. That is Aggressive Instincts 1.0, and cheers again to David for the stats on that one. Some others do break even, so you could in theory apply them, but it's not just the dinosaur cost you have to take into account, but the time and funding put into researching these genetic options. Every dinosaur that can use Aggressive Instincts 1.0 should use it, and they should really be the only gene you apply in the entire game. I did end up using skins in my game, but I'm daft. Jurassic difficulty and the Hammond Foundation fee in particular is absolutely brutal on your finances. You really have to remain money conscious well into the late game, because it's gonna take like $2 million a minute from you. Speaking of research, it's kind of bad in general. You can grab yourself some slightly more efficient power stations, maybe upgrade your hatcheries for better mass production, but generally speaking you really shouldn't be spending much time on research at all. There are a few exceptions as follows. New dig teams are always necessary. You're going to want to do some fossil research as well for your early game herbivores like Styracosaurus. Disease research is absolutely fundamental and should be a top priority every time you unlock a new star rating, and the only new fence you will have to research if you follow the rest of this guide is the electrified heavy steel fence for the handful of carnivores you'll want. Do not put your carnivores in a light fence or anything below the electrified heavy steel fence. Trust me. Attractions aren't needed, fancy genes aren't really needed, and neither are the new Dr. Wu research options. All these take time and money away from your park and other more important issues. There is one further exception I haven't mentioned yet, probably the single most important upgrade in the entire game. Dig yield. Unlocked at 1 star, dig yield is absolutely fundamental to a successful playthrough of Jurassic difficulty and should be your top priority research the second you hit that 1 star mark. I'm not joking when I say funding is difficult in this mode. My endgame income of 2.4 million had over 2 million taken away from it by the Hammond Foundation fee. Dig yield is an upgrade you can and should apply 3 times to your expedition centre, and it increases the chances of finding rare minerals, fossils, basically anything that isn't a dinosaur genome, these sellable items. Now some of these items go for several 100,000, and it's a huge amount of money at basically any point in the entire game. And dig yield is going to be your primary source of economy for basically your entire playthrough. Research it, apply it 3 times, and leave it alone. Never take it off. I'm watching you. Penultimately, let's talk twisters. Twisters happen a lot in Jurassic difficulty. You should expect 3, 4, even more of them during your playthrough, and of course you're going to get even more of them if your park is taking longer to build. At first, they're still pretty terrifying, and many times people have lost record attempts just thanks to a particularly bad storm. But in reality, they're not actually that difficult to handle. It's important that you have at least one storm defense station in your park, as this will give you a nice early warning. It's also important that you have guest shelters placed around your park, so your guests have somewhere cozy to hide. The twister itself won't kill your guests or your dinosaurs, but it will potentially release your dinosaurs, who will in turn trample and chew on your guests. Chample? Don't risk it, get them hidden early. It's near impossible to ensure no dinosaur ever escapes during these events, but the best tip I can give you is to follow the storm around, and as soon as it destroys an enclosure fence, don't send a ranger team to fix it, but instead manually delete the broken fence with the destruction tool and then replace it with the fence tool. This is significantly quicker and really reduces the chances of your dinosaurs escaping. If they're right by the fence as it gets destroyed, they may escape anyway, but hopefully they'll have no one to murder. If they do escape, keep your guests hidden and send your ACU to take them down. You're always going to take economic damage here as well, so do try to have a safety net of cash just in case. Finally then, and so simple it probably shouldn't be on the list, save your game. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots. I saved every 20 minutes or so, what I thought was an acceptable time to lose when I remembered, and I did have to reload an old save at one point when a twister ravaged my Dilophosaurus enclosure in about 100 different places. At the same time, God decided he hated me and plagued my dinosaurs with, I don't know, the mumps or something, and I simply didn't have the funds to recover before bankruptcy hit. Your Hammond Foundation fee in this game is stable or increasing. It never ever drops, no matter what happens to your income, so a particularly unfortunate sequence of events can easily leave you on a red and eventually on a game over screen. Save a lot, save every single time you get a warning about an incoming storm. A lot of them regular storms where your dinosaurs get a little bit angsty and your guests just walk around. You don't need to worry about those as long as you followed this guide. Keep your Dilophosaurus happy, by the way, that's worth mentioning. Keep them at 100% comfort or they will still break out during a storm, but if you do it right you should be fine. And just be prepared to load an old save if things do go drastically wrong. That's kind of what this game mode's all about anyway. That's it anyway folks, my top 10 tips on beating Jurassic difficulty. I really hope it helps a lot of you get more prepared for patch 1.6, because I do know some people are a little bit worried they're going to miss out on skins due to not being able to do this difficulty. That said, challenge mode on Isla Penna is going to be a very different proposition, so we may have to look at individual guides for those smaller islands, but I'm really excited to see how they play out. Please do leave me a like if you found this guide helpful at all, it goes a long way, and be sure to check out David's guide below and also subscribe and stick around on the channel, as over the next couple of weeks we're going to be trying the intense sounding Isla Penna challenge mode achievement that requires you to 5-star the challenge mode park with nothing but carnivores. We're going to go way in the face of one of my advice pieces right here on the video and try that challenge. Very exciting. We may also do a normal challenge mode playthrough of one of the islands just so I can show you guys how I personally handle Jurassic difficulty. We shall see. Until then anyways, cheers, so much love, incredible amounts of love. Much love as always. Bye bye. A little shout out at the end. This video and others like it would not be possible at all without the support of you guys watching me at home, and also everyone on this Patreon page right here who supported me in the last month. If you want to help out as well, you can do so at patreon.com/bestinslot. Every little really helps. Cheers.